everyone. So today we're going to be solving equations that contain fractions, and we're going to take a look at ones that are a little more simple, and then we're going to work our way to more complicated later on. All right. So solving equations with fractions. The first goal when solving equations with fractions is to get rid of the fraction by multiplying each term by the fraction's denominator. So that's always me and Mrs. Covington's first goal, is to get rid of that fraction first. Whenever you get rid of that fraction, the equation becomes a lot simpler and a lot easier to solve. So let's take a look. So here we have negative 5 over 3x equals 15. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw those train tracks. And like it says over here, multiply each term by the fraction's denominator. Now, if you don't remember the word denominator, that is the number that is on the bottom of the fraction. So in this case, it's the number 3. So we are going to multiply by the number 3. So we're going to multiply this, and remember, this counts as one term. So we're going to multiply this whole term by 3. And then we're going to multiply over here by 3 also. Now, when we multiply a fraction by the denominator, that denominator cancels out because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So those are able to just cancel out. So then we're just left with negative 5x equals, and 15 times 3 is 45. So we can see here that multiplying that by that denominator just turned this into a very simple one-step equation. Now, hopefully you remember to solve these, all we have to do is divide by the number that's in front of the variable because we want to isolate that variable. So we're going to divide by negative 5 here. These cancel, so we get x equals 45 divided by negative 5 is negative 9. And that is our answer. So by multiplying by that denominator, you get rid of the fraction, and then it turns into a much simpler equation to solve. We're going to take a look at one more. Okay, so we have negative 2 equals 6 over 5a. So first thing that we always want to do, just so we can stay organized, draw those train tracks. All right, and like we said before, we're going to multiply by the fraction's denominator. So in this case, the number in the denominator is 5. So we're going to multiply this by 5, and we're going to multiply this by 5. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, so I'm going to just write negative 10. Now, just like before, this 5 and this 5 is going to cancel out. Remember, division and multiplication are inverses, so they cancel each other out. So we're left with 6a. Now, if you're doing this and you end up with an even more complicated fraction, that means you did something wrong. Because remember, our whole goal is to get rid of the fraction. So if you're multiplying and you end up with something that still looks like a fraction, you have to double check your work and see where you went wrong. Now, we're going to solve this equation by dividing the number that's in front of that variable, which is this 6. So these cancel out here, and we get negative 10 over 6 equals a. Now, we're not done here, though. Hopefully, you recognize we're not done because this fraction is not simplified. And whenever we are answering equations or doing anything in algebra pretty much, we always want to make sure that our answers are in simplified form. So I'm going to just do that on the side over here. Negative 10 over 6. Now, we want to leave it as an improper fraction, which is different than what you did in middle school where you would normally turn this into a mixed number. We want to keep it improper, but we just want to simplify it. So we find the number that can go into both of these, which is 2. And we divide by 2 in the numerator and in the denominator. Now, negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this is our answer now. So we have negative 5 over 3 is equal to a. Please keep this in mind because in Delta Math, it does not register this as a correct answer. The answer needs to be a simplified fraction. So in order to get the answer right, you have to make sure that you're doing this step, which you should always be doing this step anyway. It's super important. Okay, so the goal for today, get rid of those fractions by multiplying the denominator, and then just solve the equation as you go. Make sure your answers are in simplified form.